Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where it is rapidly approaching the end of the year that has been 2022. It's been another unique year. It's brought its own unique set of challenges, and as you might hear, I'm just coming off the end of a virus. And our guest for today's session is also coming off, or is actually in the middle of being a little bit under the weather, but we'll get through this. It's my favourite Welsh guitar player and content creator, Mr. Leigh Fuge, everybody.
Hey Rich, how's it going? Thanks for having me again, as always.
Yeah, not too bad. It's a pleasure. And this is becoming something of a tradition now that every year at the end of the year we talk about the best bits of gear and the most interesting things that have happened to us in the past 12 months. So I'm excited to see what it's been like for you. And I hope you for me.
Yeah. These type of things are always fun though. I mean, we always spend countless hours talking about gear at Gear Street anyway. So yeah, and you're right though, it is becoming a bit of a yearly tradition for us now.
Yeah, so it's something that we've started and we'll carry on. And let's get right into it. So yeah, 2022 is coming to the end. I've made, I think, 50 odd videos this year, mostly about gear. You've made way more than me, I think. You've live streamed a lot as well, and you've done a lot of stuff. Let's kick it off big. What has been your favourite piece of gear that you've come across in 2022?
That's a big question to start with, isn't it?
I know. The meaning of life, essentially.
In what field? Because I've had multiple favourite pieces of gear this year, I think.
Well, we'll go musical gear. I'm not talking about your favourite kitchen appliance or anything like that. But
as in like, what subset, like guitar, amp, like, because there's been a few. This year's been a good year for gear.
That. You're a guitar gear musician and you're a gigging musician. What has been the one piece of gear that's helped your life maybe the most this year as a guitar player and as a gigging musician?
Probably the number one thing would be my new Telecaster, which I don't think you've seen yet because I don't think I have either. I haven't made a dedicated video on this yet because over the last year we've been bouncing the guitar back and forth to get it right. But I've used it in a few videos, but it hasn't had its own video yet. But I can show you because it's right here.
Oh, wow. So this is an exclusive right here.
Kind of is, yeah. It's appeared on my channel a few times, but not in any great detail. It's just been used to play things, so I've not really talked about it that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was built for me this year by a friend of mine called Lewis, who runs a company called LT Custom Guitars.
LT Custom Guitars, a UK-based builder, I'm guessing.
Yes, he's down near Brighton way, so sort of southeast. But yeah, he runs a really small operation, kind of building, a couple of guitars a month. He's just built some for Jake Lee as well. Jake Lee's an LT player as well. And yeah, we've been bouncing the idea for this one around since maybe the start of the year. I think we started talking about it. I told him I was looking for a really good telly, but I hadn't quite found the one. And he said, well, I want to launch a line of tellies, so let's build the one. And then we kind of bounced around spec-wise until this thing came about.
And this was the result. It looks amazing. I mean, I love the butterscotch blackguard look on a telly. And it's funny because this is the year 2022 and your favourite new piece of gear is actually harkening back to... Was it like 1952 when the first...
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we're talking about a 70-year-old design.
So your new piece of gear for the year is, based on a 70-year-old design. And for the most part, it looks really traditional. When you first flashed the body across the screen, I thought it was a Fender. Yeah. And then you come to the neck and you see the flame maple, and you can see that the body is perhaps slightly different to a telly, but it's, to the naked eye, almost identical. And obviously the headstock is quite different, but... Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so there's a few things that are slightly different. Sticking with the traditional theme, it is Swamp Ash, because why not? And what I wanted it to look like an old telly, but to function like a modern guitar for gigs. So Swamp Ash, but you can kind of see it is contoured.
Yeah.
Like a strap, strap would be essentially.
Yeah.
We've got like a modern neck heel, which is also it's also slightly angled. You can't really see it that well on the camera.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a bit easier to get up the top. But then, if the autofocus works, flamed maple
That is a beautiful flame on that neck.
And roasted
board.
maple.
I can't quite see it from here. Is it like a one-piece neck and board? Is it just one piece of maple, or is the board separate?
The board is
two-piece.
Yeah, the board is separate. Because we went with regular roasted maple for the neck and flamed for the fretboard.
And are those frets a lot bigger than you'd expect on a traditional telly? They look big from here.
Yeah, they are. And that was one of the reasons that it took us a while to really nail the guitar, because when we were speccing it up, both me and Lewis love the feel of vintage Strats.
Yeah.
So I wanted this to have a really thick neck, like a proper telly, but a 7.25-inch radius, like a Strat.
Yeah.
But we got a little bit too spec happy in the planning stages, and we both said, let's put jumbo frets on it, which doesn't really work that well with a 7.25-inch radius. So they are big frets, but they've been shaved down to be like smaller frets.
Okay.
So basically, we spec the frets out wrong. So when it comes time to refret it, I will get something smaller put on. But Lewis has crowned them in a way that they now behave like smaller frets, because we basically chose the wrong fret size between us. And it took us a bit of work to get the fret size right for the radius. So they started life as jumbo frets, but they've been kind of cut into to make them work properly on this kind of radius neck.
Interesting. Well, it looks fantastic, and the neck itself also looks to be pretty chunky from where I can see. Yeah.
Yep, it's a good substantial telly neck.
Yeah.
I wanted that. I wanted like the feel of like a fat telly, but with some modern features. So 2 single coils, but there's a 4-way switch.
Okay.
Which is one of my favourite things about a telly mod, is you can wire the pickups in series and parallel.
Yeah.
So when it's in the middle pickup position, it's the regular like 2 pickup telly sound.
Yeah.
And then when the switch is all the way up, they act like a humbucker. So one coil runs into the other. So you essentially get like 3 telly pickup positions and then like a humbucker sound.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
Very
then
cool.
just because I like Strats, the volume knob is push pull, which puts the two coils out of phase.
For a quacky sort of a sound.
Yeah. So you can kind of get a Stratty sound either with the humbucker mode or the middle position. You get 2 slightly different kind of out of phase sounds as well.
Yeah.
So it's got a few extra things under the hood, but the body to look at looks like a typical telly.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. It looks very classic. What are the pickups in it?
They are Radio Shop ID telly set. ID being increased dynamics. So they're sort of like half potted. So they've got a little bit more dynamic range. Radio Shop are a small company in South Wales. So we went local for the pickups.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it. Yeah. Very cool. So LT Guitars, that looks fantastic. They have a website and everything, I assume, where we can find out more information about them?
Yeah, he's got a website, LT Custom Guitars. He's on all the socials as well.
Yeah, I'll put it down in the description, yeah.
But yeah, you can order one of these straight away. He's got like, there's sort of like he does mostly custom builds. This is like a semi-custom line. So if you want a telly, you kind of go on the website, you pick a telly, and then you can pick like your color, your fretboard radius. It's like custom within a preset bunch of parameters, which is quite cool.
Okay, yeah.
And I think he's getting them out the door then for like 1,700 with a case, which is insane value, really.
That's really decent. And if you think about other companies that are offering sort of semi-custom guitars, like, for example, the Fender Mod Shop, I think you can get in the UK and parts of Europe now as well. You're going to be paying that sort of money for something like that, possibly more, possibly a bit less in some cases, but that's great value for a personally built guitar. Yeah.
It's got a nitro finish on it as well, which you can't see it properly on the camera.
Yeah.
But through us sending the guitar back and forth to do all the little tweaks on it, the finish is actually checked already. So it's kind of relicked by UPS, which is kind of beautiful. Because I went with the nitro because I wanted it to check and I wanted it to kind of wear. But it's literally like, you can't see it on the camera, but it's covered in all the nitro cracks already, which is nice. So I've sort of put like 30 years worth of wear and tear on it in 6 months.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. Does he offer kind of pre-relic guitars, like really beaten up stuff, or?
Do you know what? I don't know. I don't think he's done any, but he could do them.
Yeah.
At least maybe I don't know that he hasn't done any, but I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do a pre-relic one.
Yeah. Interesting. I shall definitely be checking out LT Guitars later today and having a look and seeing what he has to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, this thing's great. And vanity detail, but, why not?
I can't see it from this angle, but I'll watch back later. Have you got a signature of yours on there or something?
Yeah, I'm actually holding it against... Let me just hold it to this camera for your benefit.
Ah, there we go.
I was holding it to my main camera.
So your first signature guitar, effectively.
Technically, yes. Technically.
Beautiful. So this is my first look at LT Guitars, but I'll check out your channel. I assume more dedicated videos to come. And
Yes.
Jake Lee as well, another up-and-coming YouTuber that we got to know at 42 Gear Street this year. We'll check out his videos too and see.
Yeah, both me and Jake have done a bunch of videos with Lewis at the British Boutique Guitar Festival as well. So I've known Lewis through that for quite a while.
Cool. That's a great way to kick things off, because that was sort of in a way, it's like a left field choice, and my choices are all going to be a lot more boring and middle of the road than yours for this video, but there we go. Very cool. I like it a lot. And I guess what I'm going to go as my first choice is something that you're also familiar with, and it's something that we've actually made videos together on as well for both of our channels. And it's a range of guitars that came out this year by Yamaha, the 2022 Revstar lineup. And I've been blown away by how good those guitars have been. And if you guys watch my channel regularly, you'll know that I've made a bunch of videos about those guitars. They have the really affordable Element ones, the mid-price standard ones, and then the super expensive Japanese-built professional ones. So there's a guitar for everybody in terms of budget there. There's loads of different styles. There's humbucking and P90 pickup options. I love those guitars, and they've been a massive discovery for me in 2022. I don't have any here in the room at the moment, but there are more on the way for me, apparently. So there will be more videos to come. And we did a cool video together for your channel at 42 Gear Street that I'll link to, where you sort of discovered the guitars with me. And I think that you'd also say that these are some of the coolest guitars of the year.
Yeah, I really want one of the standard models with the P90s. Yeah. I really like that guitar.
That's the guitar that's coming to me next to try out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that line of guitars seems to have been made with what guitarists want in mind. There was a previous run of Revstar guitars that came out in about, I think, 2017 or something like that, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were really cool guitars, but they had a couple of things that I think people wanted to see sort of improved upon, like particularly they had a lot of weight issues and stuff like that. And that's been looked at with the new range. And
the new one's great.
Yeah, they're extremely playable guitars. They're extremely versatile. I've put them up against so many other different guitars that I own and that I've tested, and they hold up against pretty much everything.
Yeah. I think with the exception of the professional Japanese-made ones as well, they're not that expensive. Like, I think, aren't the standards like £600-700?
Yeah, they are. So for people thinking in euros or dollars, that's comfortably under 1,000 as well.
Yeah.
And the specs that you get on that standard guitar they're mad, really. You get stainless steel frets and a carbon reinforced neck. You get a nice gig bag with it as well. You get decent Yamaha hardware. Every single one of those guitars that I've personally played have been set up basically perfectly out of the box. So there's really nothing to complain about. Yeah, they were great. And I mean, I don't want to say that 600-700 is cheap for a guitar, because it's still a lot of money. But for the money, it's a lot of guitar. Yes, yeah. If you start to think about what else is out there for that kind of a price point, it's like these are very well done indeed. And I think another cool thing about the Revstar is traditionally people have seen Revstars as being sort of a derivative of a Les Paul or an SG.
Yeah.
But they really are their own thing. They have their own unique character and personality, and they can do that Les Paul thing. They're mahogany body, mahogany neck guitars. They do that sort of a thing, but they also can do their own thing. And I feel like they have their own place in anyone's collection. You know, if you've got a Strat and a Les Paul and a Telly, you can stick a Revstar in there, and it is a different niche.
Yeah,
that's what
especially
I tell myself anyway.
That's the best way to justify it. But especially when you get into the switching options, because you've got 2 pickups, but you've got a 5-way switch, and you've got it's different, isn't it? On the lower models, it's called a focus switch, which is kind of like a coil split, but not. And then on the ones we played, the standards, it's like a boost. So you have like different options with the pickup switching and boosts and coil splits and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. So on the most affordable model, which is the Element, it's called the dry switch on the Element.
The dry switch, that's it.
And that is that's
what did
like
I say?
a high
Focus.
Pass. You said Focus, and that's on the Standard and the Pro. Yeah,
that's it.
So yeah, on the Element one, you have the dry switch, which is a bit like a coil split. It's a high pass filter, and like you said, on the Standard and the Pro models, you've got this sort of passive boost that gives you hotter pickups and a bit more oomph. And that just gives you so many different options. And I think what we're both really excited about is to spend a bit more time with the P90 model of that guitar, because with the humbuckers, when you get that passive boost, for me personally, I'm not too sure how that benefits me as a player. But P90s, a passive boost is going to make them sound thicker and fatter and more like a humbucker. So for me, that could be the best of all worlds.
That's why the P91 appealed to me as well, because with a boosted humbucker, unless you play quite high gain stuff or you're using it as a lead boost, it's not a sound you'd use all the time. But to me, the P91, you could take to a gig and it's like, right, I've got single coils and humbuckers. It kind of fills the niche of, both those needs in one guitar.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been super impressed with those guitars, and I hope that they come out with a few more options in 2023. I don't know if they will, but I feel like there are other avenues that they could go down with those guitars as well. But
absolutely,
excited to see what Yamaha are doing, and really, really impressed. So that's my first choice of the year.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Thank you. Yeah, totally different from LT, but kind of a much more mass-produced guitar at a different price point, but something for everybody.
Yeah, and they're still great guitars. Like they would hold their own against anything, I think.
I think so too. I definitely think so. And, talking of mass-produced guitars and affordable prices to everyone, I don't yet know what other instruments you've picked for this list, because we haven't spoken about it in detail beforehand, but I'm guessing that we also both might have a guitar or something from an even more affordable brand that has the initials HB.
We might do.
Should we maybe move into that territory and see what we've got there? Have you got anything from Harley Benton in your list, is what I'm asking.
I do, yes. So there's two this year that I've had that have both really impressed me. One of which was the Mols Right style one, which I know you had the demo as well. There it is. So I've got the other version of that with the trem and the mini humbuckers, but exactly the same guitar. Yeah. But the one thing from that one, but I've got that guitar, but in the blue color.
In the blue, yeah.
And it is up there somewhere towards the back of the rack. But the one Harley Benton thing for me, and this is a bit of a curveball actually, is actually a bass.
I was just about to guess I've watched your video with that bass, and it sounds fantastic. I'm really tempted to get one of them.
This thing, I needed a 5-string bass, because the show that I'm currently playing with, we don't have a live bass player, so all the bass is on track. But part of the show, there's an acoustic part where the guys at the front of the stage play acoustic, and then I put the guitar down and I play bass for that part, because that's the section of the show that's not on track. So I needed a 5-string bass, and Benny from Harley Benton recommended this, and it's from what they call their enhanced series. So this is like the top of the line Benton stuff. And I think this retails at like $299 in the UK.
Yeah.
And literally, and I even mentioned this in the video, I haven't changed a single thing about this from the day it arrived. It's got the same strings on it. The setup is the same. I literally took it out of the box, tuned it up, and took it on the road. And it just works. It's probably the best playing Harley Benton I've ever come across.
Yeah. Wow.
Like it shouldn't be £300. It should be way more expensive.
I've been looking at a lot of their basses recently. They came out with another new range that's like it's offset, so it's sort of like a Mustang sort of a shape, but it has the PJ pickup configuration. So it has a P bass pickup and a jazz bass sort of a pickup there, and they're very, very tempting. And it's a similar story as with this one. I can't quite believe how they're getting that much spec into that sub £300 price point.
Well, they've got those new basses now as well, that come with all Goto hardware.
And they're the
same.
Goto ones,
They're like £250. It's like the hardware probably costs that much separately. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And, it's always something different. kind of learning about those from the official press release and then hearing the experiences of someone who's owned one. But watching your video and just seeing it now, the looks alone belie the fact that it's such a cheap bass. It looks so well built.
Yeah, it is. It's really well built. Like, the fretwork is spot on. The woods are, like, really, everything's really smooth. It's well balanced. Pickups sound great. It's got, like, an active EQ with a kind of a coil split and stuff. It's everything about this is just great. Like, and I literally take this out on the road with me every week and play it live.
That's very cool. I like that a lot. So, yeah, the Harley Benton for me that really opened my eyes this year was this one here, which is the MR Modern, but it's a baritone guitar.
Oh, that's the baritone one. I've got the MR Modern, but the non-baritone.
Yeah, and this is actually the first baritone that I've ever really spent a lot of time with. I've tried them in shops and stuff before, but never really dedicated any time to them. And having a baritone sort of opened me up totally to new ways of playing. It forces you to play differently. You know, you can't strum your cowboy chords as you normally would. It makes you EQ things differently. It makes you approach creating soundscapes totally differently. It's an amazing creative tool. And in a sense, you know, baritone is my choice here, so it's not necessarily saying that this is the best baritone out there. There are probably going to be many other good choices, but I do think for the price that these MR modern baritones are going for, you're very going to be hard pushed to find something to match it for that value for money.
Aren't they like around 250? Aren't they kind of hovering in that kind of price?
Yeah, around that, around 350 euros, I think, for people in Europe. And
Crazy.
So that's incredibly affordable. And they do two different versions of this guitar. You know, there's the classic with the P90s, and there's the modern that has the mini humbuckers and the trem as well. But that also had locking tuners. And I thought that locking tuners would be worth the extra money in that sense for a baritone. I just felt like tuning stability, thick strings, it was worth it.
And the thing is as well, tonally, I mean, I've not compared the classic directly to the one I own, but those mini humbuckers, they do sound closer to a P90 than a typical humbucker because the field of pickup is narrower.
Yeah.
So you get more of a kind of a bright, chimey sound rather than the extra lows that you get from a humbucker. So there's probably not a huge difference in tone either, but like you said, you get the upgrades of like the Wilkinson trem and the locking tuners as well.
Yeah, and it's got an ebony board and stainless steel frets as well, and for an extra 100 or so, definitely worth it in my book.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way about that guitar that I felt about the Fusion 3 last year.
Oh, yeah. Similar kind of specs in that sort of regard.
Yeah.
Again, those Fusion guitars, I'm still wondering how they build them for that price point, you know, with all the specs that they have. Look at that spec sheet without knowing what the guitar is and, you know, without knowing what brand it was, and you'd guess it would be at least 700 or 800 at a minimum, I would have thought.
Easily.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this last year as well, but I feel like Harley Benton has had another bumper year in that regard. They've brought out so many new models, and they've also done some great stuff with colorways, you know, great colors that are going to bring new players, young players into playing guitar, and I think they're just knocking it out of the park at the moment in terms of what they're doing.
They've also, one thing I've noticed that they've started doing, which is really cool, is working with companies like Goto, and a couple of the newer Bentons also have like EMG pickups. So they're starting to branch into like premium hardware and premium electronics now as well, but still keep the price in that kind of relatively affordable realm. Like, I don't think anything goes above like the 400-500 mark. I think the only Bentons that go up to that are the kind of like the multi-scale ones they do, that like 7/8 string, what are they called, the Amaroks, like those kind of things. Like those are kind of closer to £500, but I mean, still, you're getting a lot of guitar for not much money.
Yeah, it's really, really cool what they're doing in that regard. And they're also doing some more sort of, I'm not going to call them original designs, but they're doing things which are not necessarily going to be looked at as clones or copies in that regard. They came out with a semi-acoustic Tele type model, the TE69, earlier this year, which is like which has sort of a stacked bridge single coil pickup and does many different things. They've come out with these sort of PJ mix basses with Goto hardware and stuff. It's just they're thinking of new ideas, and we've seen things like the Aeolus, which would have been last year, which again was more of an original sort of a design.
I remember that. That was like the semi-hollow Les Paul thing, wasn't it? You had one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was a fantastic guitar, and that was one of the most expensive ones that they made. But again, it showed that they're sort of starting to bridge out from just making copies, so to speak, and making unique designs. And I think that they're doing really well in that regard.
Yeah.
Talking of original designs, though, the other Harley Benton that I did want to mention would be the JA60cc, which is very much not an original design. That is their kind of upgraded take on a Jazzmaster style of guitar. Like a simplified offset, really, because it's got JM-style pickups, but it doesn't have a whammy or anything like that, so tuning stability is good. It doesn't have extra treble circuit options or anything like that. But this is like, I think in Europe, 179 euros, so 150 pounds for you. Super
really
cheap
good
in that regard. But this guitar I actually bought with my own money because I've been looking for a decent starter offset for ages.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic guitar.
It looks good. It looks really good as well.
Yeah. Binding on the neck, lovely block inlays, came set up perfectly out of the box. It's just a really, really nice guitar. So, yeah, props to Harley Benton again.
Yeah.
I feel like we're repeating ourselves in that regard, but, you know.
They're doing a good job, though. They're making good stuff.
They're doing a really, really good job, yeah. So what would be next on your list of the greatest gear of 2022? What else have you seen that you're really impressed by?
So if we're going to stick with offsets...
We are.
PJD St. John.
Ah, beautiful.
Hard not to mention one of these when we talk about offsets. This has been probably my second favourite guitar of the year that's sort of come onto my radar. Close between this and the Revstars, but because I have this, I've kind of got to know it a bit better than the Revstars, so I think this just kind of wins.
So that's a PJD St. John standard, isn't it, with the satin finish?
Yeah, that's the one.
Beautiful, beautiful guitars. I also have one in the room right now, slightly out of arm's reach, but I made a video on one too, and there is plenty more to come on that, but those are exquisite instruments.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I love what PJD is doing. I love the way they build stuff. I love the ideas behind the guitars. I love this offset shape. It's very manageable as an offset. It's actually like the Harley Benton in that it's slightly smaller body-wise than a Fender Jazzmaster or Jaguar would be. And that P90 and humbucker pickup configuration can do pretty much everything.
Yeah, this is my first offset as well. I'd never owned like I'd never owned like a, I don't know, what do we want to call it, like a Jaguar style body before. I'd never owned one until this guitar. So this was a new kind of body shape experience for me as well, which is cool.
How did you find it then? I mean, a lot of people find offsets to be a bit sort of unwieldy, but I find them extremely comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I found it very comfortable. I think playing it stood up was a bit different. It took me like a gig or two to get used to it because it hangs slightly different than like a Strat, for instance. But once I got used to it, though, it just, because of the body shape, the neck feels like it's slightly further away when you play it standing up. Because of the way that they kind of hang on the strap, you kind of feel like you're reaching this way a bit more for the first fret. But once you get used to that after like, you know, an hour, then it just plays like anything else.
Yeah.
And it's so light as well, so lightweight.
Yeah, mine's also really lightweight. And the other thing that I love about it is the neck. So PJD are one of these other modern brands that are doing a lot of stuff with roasted maple, but I love the profile of the neck. It's so comfortable.
Very comfortable.
Yeah.
They do them all by hand as well. Like every neck is done by, there's only like 2 or 3 guys there that actually do the necks, and everyone is done by hand.
Yeah. You visited the factory, right? So I guess you've got videos of you checking it out, right? That the guys can watch?
Yeah. I did a factory tour with the owner, a guy called Leigh Dovey. He took me around the factory, showed me everything. We talk about like all the different steps they use, where like different machines they use for the guitar building and the paint shop and all that stuff.
Yeah. And PJD actually also have like a sister company now called UK Guitar Builders.
They do.
And they've gone on in quite a short time to become Britain's biggest guitar building company, biggest operation. And there's not that much competition, we have to admit that, but at the same time, they've done really, really well in a short space of time. So I'm incredibly impressed with PJD. Yeah,
because they're building guitars for a couple of other big companies who do like factory lines, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
we
talk about who they are.
I mean, yeah, it's common knowledge, so I don't think there's any reason why we can't mention it. everyone kind of knows. Obviously, the biggest recent one would be the new Chapman UK line. The guys at PJD build those. They also build Cream Tea guitars, who we played a bit at Gear Street.
Yep.
And the other big one is a guy called Seth Backus. And he makes some incredible instruments, but they're very expensive. And Seth, being as good of a builder as he is, obviously you can expect that he's got a big backlog of orders. He's always got a bit of a waiting list. And he has this new, like, I can't remember the exact name, but it's like a standard line, essentially, that PJD build to his spec as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. Actually, you've put Cream Tea into my mind now. I hadn't put them down on my list, but they're definitely worth a mention because Cream Tea are also, it's another UK operation. They're based out of Ormskirk in the north of England, and their main thing was originally pickups, but they build guitars now as well.
Those two.
And
These
those two
are
going to be Cream Tea pickups, but Cream Tea have their own line of guitars, and they have a beautiful offset called the Crossfire, but they also have this really innovative pickup switching system that I've done a video on from 42 Gear Street, and I think it's a system that they sort of used under license from a company called Relish Guitars from Switzerland. At least that's what I've heard. But basically what you can do is literally swap pickups in and out at will. There's no wiring involved. You can literally take a pickup out and put another one in. And that's very, very cool. Did you play with those at 42 Gear Street at all?
I played them, but I didn't make a video on them. I think I used one of their guitars in a video, but I didn't talk about the guitar too much because it was focusing on another product. A video on something else, yeah. But I did play the guitars as well. Yeah, they're very really cool instruments, very decent sounding pickups, good enough to be in PJDs. So that's really cool. I think PJD for me were sort of a breakout brand at the 2021 edition of 42 Gear Street. And in the 18 months since, they've gone on to become way, way bigger. So they've done a fantastic job all round. This year at 42 Gear Street, there was another guitar brand there who started to break out and have since also done a lot of stuff. And that is a company called Valiant Guitars from the Ukraine. And I know you're familiar with them as well. What did you think about Valiant Guitars at 42 Gear Street? I thought they were great. I really liked the way that they kind of go about things. They seem like a company that have really good ethics as well, which I think these days, I mean, in the wider retail world, we're all very much aware of ethics these days and how workers are treated and how products are kind of sourced and for sustainability purposes and all that. And I think the guys at Valiant have got a really good ethical core behind it as well. Like everyone that works at the company is quite nice. Everyone's kind of treated great. And then the products they put out are just fantastic as well. The guitars at Gear Street were really good. And I think it was almost really hard to get a video done with them because everyone wanted to play them. So it was like, where are the guitars now, Yeah, there were actually a couple of occasions where I wanted to get a specific model into a room to do a video with, not specifically about the guitar, but featuring it. And I couldn't because it was elsewhere. So that happened literally a couple of times. So yeah, they were very much in demand. And it's always cool to see new brands. And, I think a Ukrainian brand at the moment is a particularly poignant thing to see. And I think everyone there became instant fans of the brand. I then got to see them again at the Guitar Summit in Mannheim in Germany, and they had a massive presence there and were clearly doing a lot of good business. So fingers crossed that they can continue to thrive and grow in 2023. So Valiant Guitars, you may not have heard of them, but I've got a couple of videos, and check out the links in the description if you want to find out more about those guys. Because they offer custom guitars, and they offer some pretty mad one-off hand-carved instruments as well for crazy prices. Some of those are crazy. But some of the carved ones are insane. Yeah, exactly. So that was Valiant Guitars. Was there anything else at 42 Gear Street that stood out for you in terms of gear? There's one more thing for me, but interested to hear if there's anything for you. So the big one at Gear Street, two big ones. One of these products was something that a lot of the guys at Gear Street gravitated towards. I didn't do anything with it at Gear Street because I'd already done a video on it, which is the Blackstar St James. I kind of felt that amp got a lot of attention at Gear Street, either the 6L6 version there or the EL34 version. Everyone that tried them seemed to really like them.
Yeah.
I'd already done my video, so I didn't need to do one at Gear Street because I'd already had mine by that point. But I do think the other product, I think you know what I'm going to talk about, and it's maybe a tad controversial.
What? On my channel? Oh,
That was the other one. Obviously, Blackstar Amped 1. This thing at Gear Street was definitely a bit of an eye-opener for everyone because I think most people, when they tried this, were a bit shocked at the range of sounds you can get from this thing.
yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely a really cool piece of gear from this year. I really enjoyed and still enjoy using this thing for a lot of different purposes.
Yeah, definitely. It's back at 42 Gear Street, the Amped 1 that you're holding there was not yet out. It was like a top secret product.
Yeah.
And I obviously didn't do too much with it then because, working with an amp-based company as well in Blue Guitar, I kind of kept myself away from it for obvious professional reasons.
Yeah.
But the other item on my list from 42 Gear Street was going to be the St. James range. That was an amp line that I discovered at 42 Gear Street and loved. I've since played the Amp 1 as well, the Amped 1, I should say, and yeah, it's a super cool piece of gear for what it does, I think every company under the sun pretty much makes a pedal amp these days, and they offer different things for different players. Some have a bunch of different channels, some have built-in effects, some are purely analog, some are purely modelers, some are hybrids and do a bit of both. But the Amped 1 has very decent core sounds, it has a lot of options, and it has the awesome cab rig technology as well, which I was really impressed with, and which is also in the St. James range of amps.
Yes. Yeah, because that's kind of what blew me away about this thing, is because I knew it was going to be decent because, I'm a fan of Blackstar as a brand anyway. And I was familiar with cab rig because I'd already done my St. James stuff. But also the front end of this is kind of similar to a range that Blackstar do called the Silverline series, which has got the same kind of you choose different kind of power amp emulations and whatnot. So to me, it was like, it's going to be a combination of the Silverline with the St. James. That's going to be pretty good. But then plugging into it, it was like, wow, that's actually even better than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be good, but it was way better than I thought it was going to be, which is cool.
The other cool thing that I found about the Amped 1 is that it has something called a flat mode, which is where the EQ is totally flat. And that might seem boring on its own, but that gives you a great usage scenario for things like powering modelers and that kind of stuff. I think that's a really cool idea, and I think a lot of people will get a lot of use out of the Amped 1 for that purpose.
Yeah. I would say so, yeah, because you could use that to interface a Helix or what's the other one everyone's using? The Quad Cortex, for instance, with a real cabinet. You could use this as a power amp, essentially, to power a cabinet, but with your modeler doing all the preamp stuff, which is really cool. And then, obviously, the St. James, though, was just a next level thing. I didn't mention it at Gear Street because I'd already done it, but that thing is probably the best amp I've ever played. I actually, within an hour of that thing arriving at my house, when I first got sent it in the summer, I'd gotten in touch with Ollie, who's the guy we know at Blackstar that we deal with. I'd literally gotten in touch with him to say, you've literally just sent me my new favourite amp, within an hour of opening the box. And to this day, it comes every gig, that thing's with me on stage.
Yeah, the St. James range for me was totally new at 42 Gear Street. I'd heard of them, I'd seen them at the NAMM show from afar, didn't get the chance to play them, but having them around for the 4 days at Henning's place was a real eye-opener because they're so easy to use. They're also super lightweight. That's one of their main marketing points. They're the lightest 50-watt tube amps out there. But you have these two different models, the 6L6, which I've done a video of already, and the EL34, which is the more British sort of Marshall-voiced model. And they offer so many different tones. They're so flexible despite having two channels and a shared EQ. And they also have the digital connectivity and the recording options to make them ideal for pretty much any usage scenario you could ever imagine. You can go from anything from silent to full on 50 watts. As you know, Leigh, you've made this massive video about all the options you have with the cab rig. And for everything from silent practice through to rehearsal studio stuff, through to recording studios, and then even full on gigging, they've got your back. I find them to be no-nonsense, awesome machines for all of that sort of stuff. And they sound great too. And if they sounded shit, there would be no point to any of it. But they sound fantastic.
Yeah, that's how I use it on stage, is I have it on stage with the amp obviously giving me stage volume, but the sound that I feed to the front of the house is all cab rig, because it's just so much cleaner. Just an XLR straight out the back, goes to the front of the house. The woman who mixes our sound absolutely loves it because it's a completely kind of isolated DI guitar signal with whatever effects I put on it. And she hasn't got to worry about EQing it or anything because it's all done in the cab simulation. It just means just turn it up in the mix and it sounds great.
Yeah.
But it also keeps the stage volume down because I can set it to where I use it for my own guitar monitoring other than my in-ears. I have that on stage at a comfortable volume, so I'm not blazingly loud, and it just gives way more control at the front as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's also a product that's been totally well thought out for kind of any kind of guitar player, you know. If that's your kind of needs, if you need to have like an amp on stage but also be hooking up to a PA, it's perfect for that as well. So yeah, for me, this was my favourite amp discovery of the year by far, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think it's actually been a fairly quiet year for new amplifiers in that respect.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
still,
I would
the
say
St. James
so.
really impressed me.
A quiet year in the sense of like affordable amps. Like this year there's been a big push from like the new Soldano SLO30, but obviously that's $3,500. So that's way out of the price range of most of us. But I think in terms of like really good affordable amps, I think Blackstar nailed it. But there's not been a great deal of stuff in that kind of price range this year, I don't think.
No, there hasn't. And I think in that respect, Blackstar's really cleaned up with the St. James. So 2 thumbs up for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, full marks to Blackstar for the St. James range. The amped one's one that I need to spend a bit more time with, I think in 2023, to really understand the full capabilities of the unit. But I've also heard on the grapevine there might be more coming in that regard, so that could be something exciting to look at as well. But we'll keep our eyes and ears open for that as we hear more about it next year, maybe at the NAMM show. That's it from me in terms of guitars and amps for the year. I've actually got a few pedals that I would mention that came onto my board and came into my life this year. Anything from you, from guitars and amps that we haven't mentioned yet before we go to pedals?
I think we've pretty much covered the main ones this year, like the new discoveries. Like, I'd say that's the bulk of what we've discovered this year in that realm. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to pedals then. What's been the pedal that's blown you away the most this year?
One of my favourites was the MXR Duke of Tone. So I don't have one here. I need to get one. That's the MXR teamed up with Analog Man to create essentially an affordable version of the Prince of Tone, King of Tone circuit. I demoed one of those earlier this year and that was fantastic. I really liked that.
Yeah. That's actually a pedal that is on the list that I would have mentioned later that I haven't tried yet but would love to, because obviously I've actually been on the King of Tone waiting list since April 2018, and I think in about 3 months my name will come to the top of that list and I'll be able to order a real King of Tone. But for anybody who doesn't want to be as stupid as me and wait for 4 or 5 years to get a pedal, now we have the option to get a more affordable version with the MXR.
People who wait 4 years for pedals, I mean,
idiots. The lot of them.
Well,
Did you wait 4 years?
3.5.
Oh, okay, that's all right. 3.5 is fine, but anything beyond that.
I got on the list in early 2017, and I got this in like summer 2020. But
wow!
I also rejoined the list straight away, and currently I'm like 2 years away from having another one, just because.
Yeah, why not? I guess. Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it, that there's a list like that, and also it's crazy that in the year between us getting on the list, the actual build time has gone up about 1.5 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because for me it's going to be close to 5 years. April 2018, and I'm imagining it's going to be about April 2023. Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, it'll be 5 years, yeah.
That is a long time to wait for a pedal.
It is. For me, the reason I want one of the Duke of Tones is because I love this thing so much. But the more I gig it, the more I kind of think in my head, if it breaks or if it goes missing, I have to wait 5 years for another one. So
true.
That's also the other reason why I put my name on the list again, because I want to get one of these just to have and one that I can take out. But the idea of the Duke of Tone is great because it's a more affordable version of the circuit. So if it broke or went missing, it wouldn't be the worst problem.
Have you tried the Duke of Tone against the King of Tone together? Do they sound identical, or is there a bit of difference? Or
to me, they sounded pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
I didn't make a video. I was going to make a video comparing the two, but I just ran out of time because I only had the pedal on loan. And it right before I had it for like, I think I had like 3 days with it, and then I had to go to the next person because the pedal was set to be released ages afterwards when everyone was kind of told about it. But then Dunlop brought the pedal release forward by like 3 months. So then it was like...
Yeah, it was leaked, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So the pedal ended up coming out like 3 months sooner than it was meant to, or something like that. So everyone that was going to do a video was like, right, now you've got to do it this week, and you've got like 2 days to do it, and then it's got to go to the next person. Yeah. So I didn't get as much time with it as I wanted, because I was going to do a video comparing it to the actual King of Tone circuit as well.
Yeah. Can you remember roughly what it costs, the Duke of Tone? Is it like £170 or something, or €200 thereabouts?
Yeah, typical MXR price, like 160 to 180, that kind of price point.
Yeah. I've got the MXR Timmy, which is their version of the Paul Cochran Timmy pedal, and that's fantastic, and it's near as dead on to the original Timmy, which I also have. And I
didn't know you had an original.
A version 2. Yep, I do. It's I
have the MXR. I've got the MXR one, and I compared the MXR one to the one in the Helix, and that was spot on.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, the Timmy I got for about, I think, €230, which is actually not that much, because if you look at stores that sell them online at the moment, like there's about 10 available in Europe, in Germany right now. And I know because I made a video about Timmy type pedals a couple of weeks ago, and I searched on this one site where you can buy used pedals at competitive prices. Right. The cheapest was about €400, and some of them are selling at €800, which is just
crazy.
It's madness in a way. And it's a similar story with the King of Tone. And that's why the Duke of Tone is so cool. Yeah.
The King of Tone itself is actually not that expensive if you buy it from Analog Man. I think, like, once you come up on the list, these cost, like, they've gone up slightly now, but I think they're like $240, which in the UK is like 200 quid. The thing that costs money is the shipping. Like, I paid $100 to have it shipped.
Shipping and customs as well, I guess, right?
Oh, there was an extra customs fee on top. The shipping's expensive because Analog Man offers regular shipping, which is like $25, or insured shipping, which is $100. But if the non-insured one goes missing...
Yeah, there is no way I'm ordering that pedal and not insuring it.
That's exactly why I just thought, you know what, I'm going to pay for the extra shipping because I've waited 4 years for it to come up on the list. I'm not going to wait another 4 years to have a replacement.
Yeah. I've seen that there's other options that you can go for as well with the King of Tone. Like, you can order a higher gain option on one side. Yeah. You can get different jacks. You can get buffered bypass and stuff like that. So I might actually pick your brains in a couple of weeks' time about what I should go for. What's the best options to get? But
yeah. I got the high gain on the red side. So the yellow side's regular gain, and then the red side is high gain. It's not that much higher. It's like an extra, like, 3 notches. But it's useful... because the amount of gain the pedal has on its own is great to push other pedals or push an amp, but not quite enough to get a good overdrive into a clean amp. Whereas if you get the higher gain mod on one side, you've just got that little bit extra juice. So if you plug it into a clean amp, you can get a bit more overdrive out of it.
Oh yeah, cool. That might be worth it. I've seen a lot of people mentioning I think high gain red side is what they say. That's the term for people in the know, so that might be somewhere I'll have to go for.
I don't know why, but that's just what people do. No idea why.
Do you know if the Duke of Tone, by the way, is that like the higher gain version of the King of Tone, or is it a standard King of Tone, or do they even tell you that much? Or
I think in my video, I said it wasn't the higher gain version, but I'm pretty sure someone in the comments mentioned that it was. Oh. So I'm not sure.
I'm going to have to watch your video, and then I'm probably going to have to buy a Duke of Tone as well. But there we go. Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a good pedal.
Yeah, I'm going to go for it, I think. But I'll wait till my King of Tone gets there first, and then look at my bank balance and see where I go from there. So So to take us from very expensive, the King of Tone, down to something a lot cheaper, one pedal that jumped out at me this year, which I had no idea existed and then randomly saw online, was the Mark II of the Tone City Golden Plexi. Everybody knows the Golden Plexi, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Marshall in a box Plexi pedal that came out a few years ago and was popularized by Andertons. There's that video where Lee Anderton and Rob Chapman play one, and Rob plays it for the first time, and he literally throws his 40 pounds at Lee to have the pedal. And I mean, there were a few weaknesses, people said, with the original Golden Plexi, and Tone City say that they've ironed some of those out with the Mark II. But the Mark II just appeared and they never did any promotional stuff or marketed it or anything like that. I just randomly saw it and bought it for that cheap price. It was about $50. And it's great. It does that Plexi thing. And one of the biggest issues I think a lot of people said with the original was that if you had the gain down here, you got kind of a low gain Plexi sound. Once you got to here, it was full on. And as you carried on here, there was nothing in it. You know, it was all just full on high gain sounds. But with this one, you got a nice sweep of the gain control, and it gives you many different Marshall tones. Real cheap and cheerful, but I love it. It's on my board. It's a great pedal. Yeah.
I've tried the Mark I. I'd be interested in trying the Mark II. That's quite cool.
Yeah, very, very cool pedal. So those were both mini pedals. Have you got anything bigger in terms of pedals that you'd want to mention?
Yeah, what? Oh, I've got a few. I just stacked up a bunch of stuff on my desk that I really liked this year. These two are quite big.
Oh.
I've enjoyed both of these this year.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to start?
Let's start with the Katastrophe.
Okay.
Oh God, I half German pronounced and half English pronounced that. Katastrophe. Or Katastrophe in German.
As Chris likes to say, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this JPTR FX Katastrophe, this is a really cool pedal because it's like a Marshall kind of JCM 800 in a box.
Yeah.
And then just because it's JPTR FX, it's also got a boost, which is an octave up, because why not?
Why not indeed?
This is a really, really high gain pedal. It's called a Sludgefest Dominator, which obviously is the best name for anything high gain. But it actually does low gain stuff really good too. And then the octave up is just fun. It's just a really nice alternative to a boost, just to add that kind of upper octave. I love all the JPTR stuff anyway, though. It's usable and it's got loads of classic sounds in there, but there's always something you can do with it that's a little bit nuts and a little bit kind of off the wall.
Yeah. They often have something very special and particular about all their pedals. And I love watching the videos that you do with JPTR and with Chris as well. There's one really great one, which I'll link down there, where you go through every single JPTR pedal in one video.
Yeah,
which I think
that was this year.
Yeah, that was this year. That's like a fantastic overview of the range, because it's really worth getting the extra kind of knowledge from Chris himself, because he's the guy who knows what he's built into these sometimes bizarre machines.
Yeah. What I quite like about a lot of his pedals, this is a bit of an exception because this is labelled, but Chris sometimes doesn't label what the knobs do because he likes you to just listen to it. You know, it's all listed in the manual, but you know, if you're making decisions about your sound, you should listen to it, not be dictated by what the pedal tells you. So I think that's quite cool. Like this big one here is the control for the amount of octave in the boost. But it doesn't tell you that it's the octave control. You just have to move it to hear that. So that's quite a cool thing he does.
Yeah.
I know Henning doesn't like that, though. Henning doesn't like that Chris doesn't label anything.
Of course he doesn't. But there you go, that's Henning. But yeah, I've never made a video with a JPTR FX pedal, and I really, really want to do it. Here's an annoying little story for you, by the way. In 2021 at 42 Gear Street, I did a great interview with Chris JPTR in Henning's post office room. And
I remember this.
Yeah. The video was lost. And we did it again this year. And we double and triple checked everything before recording. And the audio was lost.
I remember.
So I've done two amazing, very similar interviews with Chris that unfortunately will not ever see the light of day. And he's already promised me that we'll do another one next year, but I feel like we're destined never to have an interview together. The same thing happened with Kafir. I did two interviews with Kafir, one each year, and we lost the audio once and the video once. And I almost thought maybe I'll just blend the two together, use the pictures from one and the sound from the other, and we'll have this madness thing that just runs. But nah, it's that's one of the perils of working in video, especially when you're working with equipment which is not yours, and things can go wrong. And in this case, they did.
They can, yeah.
But there you go.
They can and they do.
They can, they do, and they will next year as well, I'm sure, if I go to do it. But yeah, Jupiter Effects, great choice. What was that other pedal you had there? It looked like a RedSeven to me.
It was, yeah. Let's get a close-up there. And one for your benefit on the Skype camera.
Beautiful.
So RedSeven were obviously at previous Gear Street, but I only started working with them this year. This is called the Alkemy Overdrive. It's kind of like a medium to low gain drive, which is interesting because RedSeven do amps that are typically higher gain. This is... I don't want to say it's like a Tube Screamer because it's not, but it's the same kind of gain level as a Tube Screamer.
Yeah.
But a little bit more, again, buzzwords, transparent. So it's not as, it's like a Tube Screamer level of gain, but it's not as mid-bumped, and it doesn't cut all the lows.
Okay.
So it's that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Really good for like classic rock, bluesy stuff, but also good if you push an amp with it. It's got a couple of little mods, like a fat and normal switch for the gain, hard and soft clip-in, and it's got an independent boost as well that you can put before or after the drive circuit. So it's just a really, really kind of good, versatile overdrive pedal, but I've had a lot of use out of this year, and I really like it.
Yeah, looks really cool, really solid. Are they made in Italy?
They are.
I
If you
think
can
that answers
look
my
past
question.
look past my terrible Velcro cutting job there, and see it is made in Italy.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, RedSeven were another sort of breakout brand at Henning's event last year, and I never actually played any of the pedals, but the amps were fantastic. And
I'm not sure they had the pedals at Gear Street, but they definitely had amps.
Okay.
But I don't think the pedals were there. But they're really good though.
That explains that. Talking actually of pedals that were there this year, which again had escaped my list, but we really should talk about briefly, there was another brand there also from Italy called Volta pedals.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
they make some fantastic overdrives in particular. I'm pretty sure you did videos with them, right? But
I didn't do a video dedicated to them, but I used their pedals in a few videos.
Yeah, same for me. So they have fantastic, made in Italy by the guy who does Volta, Mr. Volta.
Yeah.
Oh God, I've forgotten his name. What's his name? Is it Alessandro? Salvatore. Wonder who Alessandro is. But yeah, Salvatore. It's Salvatore. And if you look at any of the videos that I've done from 42 Gear Street, they're in basically all of them. There's the 1987, which is a modded Marshall sort of a sound.
Yeah.
There's the Blue, which is a Dumble sort of a sound. Made in Italy in very small doses to fantastic specs and fantastic quality thresholds. Volta pedals. Yeah, hopefully both of us will get to do some more dedicated videos on those in the future because they were fantastic. Yeah.
It's just him and his wife, I think, that build them as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very, very small.
Very, very small. Literally the
team
two of them.
One or two. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so really, really cool, and hope they thrive in the next year as well. So next on my pedal list is another company that we often see at the 42 Gear Street events, and that would be Revv, and it's the Revv Tilt Overdrive pedal. Are you familiar with this one?
I've seen it, but I've not tried it. I've not actually tried any of the Revv stuff, regrettably, but they're on my list of brands I really want to work with and try some stuff from. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that. So the Tilt is an overdrive and boost, and it's a signature pedal for Sean Tubbs. And I'm sure you're familiar with him, like a very well-known session player, has a great YouTube channel. And the interesting thing about the Tilt is that it's not very Revvy in a way, because Revv is very much known as being kind of, they have their G3 and G4 pedals, monsters of Marshall-esque modded high gain goodness, and they're fantastic for modern metal tones. But the Tilt was created as like being a pedal for Sean, who plays a lot of sessions, to be able to go anywhere, plug into any amp, whatever the gear was in the room, and get a great usable guitar tone, his tone straight away. So you've got this... Yeah, you've got this boost, which is very versatile with a number of different sort of shelving options that they call tilt. And you've got the drive side that does like a thick up to kind of medium gain sort of Revv. I would call it a British sort of sounding overdrive sound, but it's just a super versatile pedal. It's Revv, so it's built like a tank, made in Canada. It's a lovely pedal, really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, I need to try their stuff because everything I've heard from them I really like. So I need to actually get my hands on some.
Yep, that's something you need to sort out next year because Revv, I've only ever had good experiences with them. I've had the G2 pedal, the G3, the G4, now the Tilt as well. I've played a bunch of their amps. I've always had thoughts about getting maybe a D20 or a G20 head just to be another sort of studio amp here for me because they're both fantastic and they have the 2 notes technology in them for recording and stuff as well. So super cool company. Big fan of Revv.
Yeah, the 2 note stuff is great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other pedals from your side that you want to talk about?
Trying to think what I've been really impressed with this year. There's been so much stuff; it's hard to remember sometimes. I really like this, the Teisco Fuzz. That was a new one for me this year. Again, kind of discovered this one at Gear Street last year, but I only got my hands on some of the Teisco stuff this year, and this one was actually one of my favourite fuzz pedals I've tried this year.
I would love to try that fuzz pedal. So at the previous edition of Gear Street, I was given the Overdrive pedal by Teisco.
That's great as well. That's really good.
Which is, it's kind of a Timmy sort of transparent sort of overdrive pedal, and it's just really, really good, and it's a totally different. It's a totally different thing, you know. If you want to be not like 99% of other guitar players, try a Teisco. And I really want to try the fuzz, but haven't. They have a distortion
really
too, and they have a delay, and there's like an audio interface pedal that they do as well. Definitely worth checking out if you're into something a bit different.
Yeah, the distortion's really good. I've got one of those here. The delay I've also got. I didn't like that so much. I haven't made a video on either of those two. The delay I wasn't crazy about, but I haven't sat down with it properly yet. And the interface is a really cool idea for people who want to use like plugins in a real amp rig. You can kind of use it as a switch to turn things on your computer on and off, but as part of a real live rig. But it's a bit too complicated for what I would use it for. But it's a cool concept.
That you've actually explained it to me a bit because I didn't really know what it did, but that sounds like something that might be worth checking out as well. Now, the one other pedal that I would want to bring up from this year would be 2022 was kind of the year of big delays again because Boss came out with the new version of their Space Echo. Yeah. Which apparently is awesome. Yeah, they had an individual sized one and they had the double sized one, the RE202. And Line 6 came out with the Mark II of their DL4, their kind of household delay earlier in the year, which I haven't played, but I would love to try. But actually the pedal which is on my list is a more affordable version of, I would say, the Boss. It's the new X Tape Echo. And this is their take on that Space Echo sort of a sound, Tape Echo. And it's a fantastic, affordable take on that pedal that does pretty much everything. It's you've got this tape delay, you've got the otherworldly sort of reverb sounds, you've got the 3 different tapes in there, so you've got different rhythms that you can set with the delays, you've got a tap tempo, you've got MIDI control. It's pretty affordable as well. It's obviously cheaper than the Boss stuff. That's cool. You know, some people will say it's a copy of the pedal, but this really brought a new sort of 3-dimensional sound to a lot of the stuff that I was playing this year. So I've been very impressed with this one. I would heartily recommend it to anybody who's looking at tape delays.
I really like stuff New X put out. I think as one of the budget brands, I think they've come a long way with their quality. And I think the reliability of their products is fantastic. I actually gig with they do a wireless system now, and I use that for gigs, and it's rock solid. It's never let me down.
Yeah, really cool brand. They have a lot of different pedals of different sizes. They do mini ones as well. I've got the Horseman, which is their Clon Centaur type one on the table in front of me. That's a great pedal, just randomly there for whatever reason. But they've got a bunch of others, and actually they just sent me one of their double pedals, the Queen of Tone, which is a new one, which is the Horseman. So it's like a Clon Centaur style circuit mixed with a Blues Breaker style circuit. So that's going to be 2 interesting drives to mix together. I like the Ace of Tone, which I know you also did a video on. That was a good one. Yes,
and that was like a blues breaker with a tube screamer.
Yes, blues breaker, lost the ability to speak. Blues breaker and tube screamer. Yeah. So and for me, I loved that one. But actually, I feel like I haven't tried the Queen of Tone yet, but I think that Clon and Blues Breaker is going to be even more my cup of tea. So videos coming in early 2023 with that one.
Nice.
Yeah. And what else have I got in terms of pedals that I wanted to mention? Let me consult my list. There's only one more that I would want to bring up, and that's kind of like a sort of strange one. It's an interesting one, a fun one, and you'll have seen it as well. And again, I'm taking us back to 42 Gear Street, because Orange came out with their massive slab of cheese vintage pedals this year.
Those are
3
cool.
new pedals. A distortion, a sustainer, and a phaser.
Yeah.
And I think those are worth a mention, because I think they've flown under the radar in some respects this year. They launched.
Yeah, they have a little bit.
Yeah, they launched to like not the world's biggest fanfare, but they're made in the UK. They're pretty cool, and they make very interesting and unique sounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not the most practical pedals in the world, being as that they're huge. But what I really like about those is that these were original pedals from decades ago that Orange had lost. And the fans asked them and put pressure on them to bring them back, and they did. And I think that's a great way for a brand to work.
Yeah, I actually did a video at Gear Street with Charlie, and the first part of the video is, Charlie, for anyone who doesn't know, is Charlie Cooper. He's the son of the owner of Orange Amps. In the video, the first part of the video is talking about the history of Orange and the history of those pedals. So he tells me about how they found the old schematic, and then they got loads of like pictures from people to rebuild the cases and get the color right and everything. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, very cool. It's a great story, and I don't think those pedals are ever going to be kind of, top sellers, because they're made in the UK, they're expensive, they're big physically as well. But super cool idea, and I really respect Orange as a brand for bringing that kind of thing back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That does also remind me how sad I am that we shot a super cool video at Henning's place where the audio was lost in some respects with one of Orange's pedal amps, again, to come back to pedal amps, and some other pedals. I don't know if we should release that video.
I think we should. We should. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it.
We'll talk offline and get that done.
We'll get it sorted. That's good. All right. So yeah, that's it from pedals for me. There's a couple of other bits of gear that I just want to bring up quickly that I haven't played, but I definitely would have liked to have played them if I had the chance. And the first one is possibly the biggest guitar release of the year, at least in many people's eyes, and that was the PRS Silver Sky SE edition, the affordable version of the John Mayer signature. I know that's far more your bag. Strat type things, John Mayer as well. Did you have a chance to play the SE Silver Sky?
I haven't yet, no, but that was actually on my list of things that I really want to play. And I keep seeing companies, I keep getting emails from different stores saying, we've got them reduced for Christmas time, and I'm looking at it thinking, shall I not? No, I'll behave. But I've come this close to buying one a few times.
Yeah, I've been really close. I was at a local store here that had kind of an open day, or where people from brands were there and stuff. And they'd obviously bought a crate of Silver Sky SEs in, and they were at a really decent price. And I didn't play one. I still haven't touched one, but I was getting so close just to pulling the trigger on that.
I really want one of the full PRS Silver Skies. I kind of convinced myself when they first came out, as much as I wanted one, I kind of convinced myself it's just another Strat. It's not going to be that good. And a friend of mine has one, and I played it, and I thought, oh no. you know when you play a guitar and you instantly think, now I'm in trouble. That was one of those for me. Okay,
I'm going to try one in 2023, and we shall see. I've never really been that much of a Strat person. I have my old Japanese 91 Strat that I bought from Guillaume at Thomann. But apart from that, I find that I have to fight Strats too much. So I'm interested to see if the Silver Sky plays a bit more forgivingly. Is forgivingly a word? But
it's slightly different to a typical Strat feel. It feels Strat-ish, but you can tell it's a PRS at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe 2023 will be our year of the budget Silver Sky.
Maybe.
And the other,
if anyone wants to donate $2,500 for me to have a real one, then that would also be, appreciated.
If that
I don't think anyone's going to take me up on that.
Well, if someone does, I commit to getting an SE version, and we'll do a couple of videos with each and compare them. How about that?
Deal.
Maybe that'll motivate someone with more money than sense, possibly. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, the other thing that I just wanted to mention that I think is really interesting is the fact that Strymon started making plugins of their pedals. There is a Big Sky plugin now which is about $200. And I thought that was a really interesting thing just to bring up, because I think that is a sign of things to come. Obviously, Strymon have a lot more big pedals that they can provide as professional plugins. And I think other companies will start doing that. And I see advantages and disadvantages of that system, but there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, it allows you to use your Strymon stuff without actually having the physical unit on your board, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for a plugin, but Strymon has this position on the market where there are so many people who, that they buy everything that Strymon does. They're Strymon fans through and through, that they will buy this plugin. And if you're someone who has been using, the physical pedals and you're recording in the studio, this sounds exactly the same. In that sense, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the plugin market is so big at the moment, and plugins are getting so good that people are willing to pay money for them. So so
this year we've had everything from Strymon plugins through to SE Silver Skies, through to all these pedals, guitars and amps that we've talked about. One other thing that we've talked about kind of and has run through the show is another highlight of my year, which was the 42 Gear Street show.
Yeah.
2022 was it's always a highlight. It's a great place for us as, brand people or YouTubers or whatever we may be to go and see new gear. And I think that 2022 was sort of a year when things opened up a bit again as well, because in Germany here we had the first Mannheim Guitar Summit since the pandemic started. We had the first NAMM show, didn't we? Yes, since 2020 as well.
First one, I think, yeah.
So this has been a year that has seen things opening up again. And I think you got to gig a lot more this year than in the previous couple of years, right?
Yeah, I've pretty much spent most of this year on the road, which has been crazy.
So how has that been for you? Like, gigging before and after this pandemic?
It's been different. I think people have a lot more appreciation for live music this side of the pandemic. I kind of feel like people are really into going to gigs now. I think with gigs being taken away, it's made people realize how much they enjoy going to them. So yeah, I think it's been different. It was really weird gigging during the tail end of the pandemic when some of the restrictions were still in place, but now it's just back to normal now. Yeah,
because I think at the end of the day, we make a lot of videos about guitar gear and we talk about gear a lot, but the ultimate goal of consuming and buying all this gear is to make music with it.
Yeah,
that's an incredibly important thing. So to be able to come back as a musical community this year and to be able to do that, to experience concerts from the stage and from the crowd has been a great thing. And hopefully 2023 is going to be like that as well.
Yeah, well, my 2023 is already looking pretty busy in terms of time on the road. So I've already pretty much got a full diary for the entire year, which is quite nice.
That sounds pretty cool. What else have you got planned? What are your hopes and dreams for next year? Is there anything in terms of gear that you're already thinking about? Any other specific plans that you've got that you can share? Any more signature items appearing?
Not really. The only other signature item that happened to me this year was, I don't know if you've seen these either, but I'm holding it to my close-up camera at the moment, which is refusing to autofocus. Let me show you on the Skype camera as well. So
signature
Dunlop picks with my name on the back, which is quite cool. So that's nice. The other. But in terms of next year, nothing like major planned yet. I kind of know what I've got work-wise. So obviously, like, I've got a full diary with the touring show that I'm part of, and recently I've started working with Lick Library, creating educational content for them. So my year pretty much is full of time on the road, shooting videos for Lick Library, and my own YouTube channel. That's pretty much a full year there. So I'm sure I'll manage to squeeze some other bits into that as well. But yeah, it's pretty much, the year's pretty much booked up already. And going to the NAMM show in April as well.
Yes, that will be another highlight, because you didn't make it this year. When was the last time you were at the NAMM show? 2020?
I've never been.
What?
Because I only started the YouTube thing at the start of 2020. So I booked to go. I booked my flights in 2020 to go to the NAMM show, and because of the pandemic, it's just been bounced. So the flights I'm taking to California this April, or next April, I should say, because we're currently still in December, are the same flights I booked 3 years ago. So I'm finally getting to use those flights. Finally.
Yay. And finally getting to the NAMM show. Well, that's always a massive highlight for me. I've done about 10. And I hope to be back there in April this coming year. So that's hopefully going to be a great one. Hopefully there will be more stuff with Henning and with other people, more other events, guitar summits and stuff like that, because things have been opening up, and I really hope that they do continue to do so. Yeah. Listen, guys, I will put links to everything we've talked about down in the description down there, and to Leigh again. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to me about your gear of the year. It's been an honor to have you back. No problem. Thanks for having me. It's always fun. I like that this is becoming a bit of a kind of a yearly tradition now. Anyway, I always enjoy the videos we make together. Anyway, because we've got quite similar viewpoints on gear, but also different enough to kind of appreciate slightly different things too. So it's always fun talking gear together. Yeah, exactly. I have to agree. I would like to do it a lot more often. So maybe we can do a bit more together in 2023. Let's do it. And as a very final bonus thing, I just wanted to get your thoughts on one more item. This year was a breakout year for you as well, because in MusicRadar's Gear and Polls of the Year 2022, you were nominated as Guitar Personality of the Year. I was. I didn't win, but I was nominated, which was very cool. You didn't win, but to be on that list of nominees alongside some of the luminaries of the genre, of this niche world that we inhabit, how did that feel? And how are you going to assure yourself that you win it in 2023? I'm not sure. It was a bit surreal, to be honest, because, I didn't know that I was being nominated until MusicRadar tagged me in the Instagram post about the voting. I thought they just tagged me because I'd created some content for them previously. I do some educational content with them. So I thought they were just tagging me to make me aware that this thing was going on. And I started reading through the list of nominees, and it was like, Paul Davids, Ola England was on there, Justin Hawkins, Henning was on there, Andy Ferris. And I'm like, this is cool. And then I saw my name, and it was like, whoa, okay. How the hell did that get on there? But yeah, that was very cool. A very, very cool thing to... I thought that was super cool. And I thought, there are some channels with bigger followings. There are some people doing different stuff to you, but I also thought, thoroughly deserved. So... Thank you. Well done. And I guess the poll's closed now. I can reveal that I did vote for you because you asked me to on Instagram. Not privately, but you put a story out saying how shocked you were and how pleased you were that you'd been nominated for it. And I thought, based on YouTube's guidance, do we have to declare that as a sponsored thing because I paid you a lot of money to vote for me? Yeah, we technically do. I'll probably cut this out just so this can be a video that we both make, thousands and thousands of dollars from. Yeah, there we go. Let's try that. Well, I wish you the best of luck in 2023 if you're nominated again, and hope you have a great year. It sounds like there's a lot planned, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Everybody else, make sure to sub to Leigh if you haven't already. Check everything out, as previously mentioned, in the links down there. Hope you've enjoyed this roundup of gear from the year 2022, and I hope that you stick around with me and with Leigh for 2023 as well. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.